The salvage ship Starlight Wanderer moved slowly through the dark space. It was an old ship with rust on its walls and engines that made strange sounds, but it was home to the small crew who lived inside it. They traveled from system to system, looking for broken ships and abandoned cargo to sell. Kang Tai-ho sat in the engine room, fixing a broken pipe. He was 29 years old, with messy black hair and hands covered in grease. He had been a mechanic since he was 16. His father had taught him everything about machines before he died. Now Tai-ho worked on this ship to pay off the debts his father left behind. "Tai-ho," a voice called through the speaker. "Come to the bridge. We found something." He wiped his hands on his dirty shirt and walked through the narrow hallways. When he reached the bridge, Captain Bak Dong-soo was staring at the main screen. The captain was an old man with gray hair and a scar across his chin. He had been flying ships for 40 years. Han Yuna sat at the navigation controls. She was the same age as Tai-ho, with short hair and sharp eyes. She was his closest friend on the ship. "What is it?" Tai-ho asked. Yuna pointed at the screen. "Distress signal, coming from Sector 742. Nobody goes there." "Which is why we should check it," the captain said. "Could be valuable salvage." The ship changed direction and flew toward the signal. It took 3 hours to reach the location. When they arrived, everyone on the bridge went silent. The space in front of them was filled with destruction. Dozens of warships floated in pieces. Some were cut in half. Others had giant holes burned through them. Metal and glass drifted everywhere like snow. "What happened here?" Yuna whispered. "A battle," the captain said quietly. "A bad one." Tai-ho looked at the destroyed ships. They were not human ships. The designs were strange and beautiful, with smooth curves and glowing lines. 2 different types of ships had fought here. Both sides had lost. "There," the captain pointed, "an escape pod, still intact." The small pod floated among the wreckage. Its lights were blinking weakly. "Someone might be alive inside," Tai-ho said. The captain shook his head. "Could be dangerous. We do not know what species they are. If someone is alive, we cannot just leave them." Yuna looked at him. "Tai-ho, the captain is right. Aliens can be unpredictable. Some of them hate humans." But Tai-ho was already walking toward the airlock. "I will bring them in. If they are dangerous, we throw them back out." The captain sighed. He had known Tai-ho for 5 years. The young man was stubborn when he wanted to help someone. "Fine, but be careful." Tai-ho put on his spacesuit and floated out into the wreckage. The silence of space surrounded him. He used small jets on his suit to move toward the escape pod. When he reached it, he grabbed the handle and looked through the small window. Inside was a woman. At least she looked like a woman. Her skin was silver like polished metal. Her hair was long and white. She wore beautiful armor that looked like it was made from crystal. But her eyes were closed, and she was not moving. On her head was a helmet. It was the most beautiful thing Tai-ho had ever seen. Gold and silver metals twisted together in complex patterns. Small gems glowed with soft light. But there was a problem. A large crack ran through the center of the helmet. Strange energy leaked from the crack like glowing smoke. Tai-ho pulled the pod back to the ship. The crew helped him bring it inside. When they opened the pod, they could see the woman more clearly. She was tall, taller than any human. Her face was beautiful, but cold like a statue. "She is still breathing," Yuna said, checking a medical scanner. "But barely. Something is wrong." Tai-ho looked at the cracked helmet. The glowing energy was fading. Every second, more of it escaped into the air. "The helmet," he said. "I think it is killing her." "Then take it off," the captain suggested. Tai-ho tried, but when his fingers touched the edge of the helmet, the woman's body shook violently. Her eyes opened for just a moment. They were violet, deep and bright like gems. She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Do not remove," she whispered in broken human language. Then she fell unconscious again. "The helmet stays on," Tai-ho said, "but I need to fix the crack." The captain frowned. "That is alien technology. We do not know how it works." "A crack is a crack. Metal is metal. I can figure it out." He carried the woman to his workshop. It was a small room filled with tools, spare parts, and half-finished projects. He laid her on his work table and studied the helmet carefully. The crack was deep. The strange energy inside was like nothing he had seen before. It felt warm, almost alive. He did not understand what it was, but he understood one thing. If the energy escaped completely, she would die. Tae-ho worked through the night. He did not use alien methods because he did not know any. He used human methods, simple methods. He found metals in his scrap pile that matched the density of the helmet. He heated them carefully and welded them into the crack. He sealed the edges with a special paste that hardened like stone. The work was slow and difficult. Several times the energy flared dangerously and he had to step back, but he kept going. He did not know why he cared so much. Maybe it was because she looked peaceful when she slept. Maybe it was because he could not stand to see something broken and not fix it. By morning, the helmet was repaired. The crack was gone, replaced by a thin line of silver metal. It was not pretty. It did not match the original beauty of the helmet, but it was solid. The energy had stopped leaking. Tae-ho sat back in his chair, exhausted. His eyes were heavy. His hands were burned from the welding torch, but he felt satisfied. Then the woman opened her eyes. She sat up slowly, her violet eyes scanning the room. Her hand went to her helmet, touching the repaired section. Her expression changed. Surprise, disbelief. Then something else. Something Tae-ho could not understand. She turned to look at him. Her eyes were intense, like she was seeing through him. "You," she said, her voice strong now. "You repaired my helmet." Tae-ho nodded, too tired to speak. The woman stood up. She was very tall, almost 2 meters. She looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she lowered herself to her knees before him. "By the ancient laws of my people," she said formally, "you have restored my soul. My life belongs to you now. I hereby proclaim you my future groom. My eternal bondmate." Tae-ho stared at her. His brain could not process what she had just said. Behind him, he heard the door open. Yuna and the captain stood there with shocked faces. "I am sorry," Tae-ho said slowly. "Can you repeat that?" "You are my future husband," the woman said simply. "I am Queen Vela of the Nexari Empire, and you have just agreed to marry me." Tae-ho's welding torch slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a loud clang. He had only wanted to fix her helmet. Now he was engaged to an alien queen. This was going to be a problem. The room was completely silent. Tae-ho stood frozen, staring at the alien queen kneeling before him. Captain Beck had his mouth open, but no words came out. Yuna was the first to react. She burst into loud laughter. "Oh, this is wonderful," she said between laughs. "Tae-ho, you fixed one helmet and got yourself a wife. This is the best thing I have ever seen." "This is not funny," Tae-ho said quickly. He looked down at Queen Vela. "Please stand up. There must be some mistake." Vela rose gracefully. Even after almost dying, she moved like water, smooth and powerful. Her violet eyes studied Tae-ho with curiosity. "There is no mistake," she said. "Among my people, the Nexari, the helmet is not just armor. It is a soul vessel. It holds our connection to our ancestors and our life force. When it breaks, we die. Not just our body, but our spirit." She touched the repaired section of her helmet gently. "Our greatest craftsmen cannot repair a broken soul vessel. It has been tried for thousands of years. Every attempt has failed. The damage you saw should have killed me within hours." "But I just welded it," Tae-ho said, confused. "I used basic metals and simple tools." "And yet you succeeded where all others failed." Vela's expression was serious. "In my culture, if someone saves your soul, you owe them everything. Your life, your loyalty, your future. The only way to repay such a debt is through the sacred bond of marriage." Captain Beck finally found his voice. "Now wait just a moment. You cannot just claim one of my crew members as your husband. He is human. You are, well, you are clearly not human." Vela turned to face the captain. Though she had been near death an hour ago, power radiated from her. The captain took a step back without meaning to. "I am Queen Vela of the Nexari Empire," she said coldly. "I rule 12 star systems and command the largest fleet in this sector. I do not make claims lightly, but the ancient laws of my people are absolute. This human saved my soul. He will be my bondmate." "Do I get a say in this?" Tae-ho asked. Vela looked back at him. For a moment, her expression softened slightly. "You may refuse, but if you do, I will be shamed before my entire empire. I will have to step down as queen." My enemies will use my weakness against me. Everything I have worked for will be destroyed. Taeho felt a headache forming behind his eyes. So if I say no, I ruin your life? Yes. And if I say yes, I have to marry you? Also yes. Yuna was still grinning. Sounds like an easy choice to me. She is a queen, Taeho. You could do worse. Please stop helping, Taeho said. He walked to the small window and looked out at the stars. His life had been simple until now. Fix engines, collect salvage, pay off his debts. He had never thought about marriage, especially not to an alien queen from an empire he had never heard of. But when he looked at Vela, he saw something familiar. She was proud and powerful, yes. But there was also loneliness in her eyes. The same loneliness he felt every night when he thought about his dead father and his empty life. I have questions, he said finally. Vela nodded. Ask them. If I agree to this, what happens? Do I have to leave my crew? Go to your planet? Become some kind of king? Yes to all of those things, but not immediately. First, you must prove yourself worthy before my people. There will be trials, challenges. Many of my subjects will not accept a human as their future ruler. What if I fail the trials? Vela paused. Then you will die. The captain slammed his hand on the wall. Absolutely not. I will not send my mechanic to die on some alien planet because of your strange traditions. It is not your choice, Vela said simply. It is his. Everyone looked at Taeho. He was quiet for a long time. His mind was spinning with thoughts. This was crazy. He was a mechanic from a poor family. He had no special skills, no combat training, no experience with politics or royalty. But he had fixed the helmet, something that the best craftsman in her empire could not do. Maybe there was a reason for that. Maybe he was not as ordinary as he thought. If I go with you, he said slowly, my crew comes too. Vela raised an eyebrow. These humans. Why? Because they are my family. If I am going to face trials and challenges, I want people I trust by my side. For a moment, Vela said nothing. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. It was small and brief, but it changed her face completely. She looked almost warm. You have loyalty, she said. That is a good quality for a king. Very well. Your crew may come. Captain Beck shook his head. Taeho, think about this carefully. You do not know anything about her people or her culture. This could be a trap. Maybe, Taeho admitted, but she was dying, and I helped her. I do not think she is lying about the importance of that. And if there is even a small chance that I can help, should I not try? Yuna stopped laughing. She walked over to Taeho and put her hand on his shoulder. You are an idiot, she said softly, but you are our idiot. If you are going, I am going too. The captain sighed deeply. He looked old and tired, but then he straightened his back and nodded. I did not save this ship for 20 years just to abandon my crew now. We go together. Vela watched this exchange with interest. Among her people, loyalty was earned through power and fear. These humans seemed to have loyalty through something else, something she did not quite understand. Very well, she said. I must contact my fleet. They are searching for me. When they arrive, we will travel to my homeworld. She walked to the communication room, leaving the humans alone. Yuna immediately punched Taeho in the arm. A queen! You are engaged to a queen. What is wrong with you? I just wanted to fix her helmet, Taeho said weakly. Well, you fixed it too well. Now you have to marry her. Captain Beck poured himself a drink from a bottle he kept hidden in his coat. I am too old for this, he muttered. 3 hours later, the space around the Starlight Wanderer was filled with warships. They were massive and beautiful, with sleek designs and glowing lights. Hundreds of them appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the tiny salvage ship. A voice came through the communication system. It was deep and angry. This is General Cairo of the Royal Fleet. We have detected the Queen's signal on your vessel. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction. Taeho looked at his crewmates. Friendly people, the Nexari. Yuna laughed nervously. We are definitely going to die. But when the general came aboard and saw Queen Vela alive and healthy, his anger turned to shock. When she told him about the helmet repair, his shock turned to disbelief. And when she announced that Taeho was her future bondmate, his disbelief turned to pure horror. This cannot be allowed, General Kiro said firmly. He was tall, even for a Nexari, with battle scars on his silver face. He is human, a primitive. He cannot be king. Vela's eyes turned cold. Are you questioning the ancient laws, General? Are you saying I should have died instead? Kiro looked away. No, my queen, but the council will never accept this. Then he will prove himself worthy. Vela turned to Taiho. You will come to my homeworld. You will face the trials, and you will show my people that you deserve to stand beside me. Taiho swallowed hard. He looked at the massive warships outside the window. He looked at the angry general. He looked at the alien queen with her intense violet eyes. All right, he said quietly. Let us go meet your people. He had no idea what he was getting into, but it was too late to turn back now. The Starlight Wanderer, small and old and rusty, flew into the formation of Nexari warships. Together they jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading toward a world Taiho had never seen. His new life was about to begin, and he still had grease on his hands from fixing that helmet. The journey through space took 5 days. Taiho spent most of that time on the Starlight Wanderer with his crew. The Nexari ships were faster and more powerful, but he felt safer on his old familiar vessel. Queen Vela visited him every day. At first, their conversations were awkward. She would ask questions about human culture, and he would give simple answers. She seemed confused by many things. Why did humans eat cooked food? Why did they sleep for so long? Why did they not have natural weapons like claws or venom? We are not built for fighting, Taiho explained one evening. We survive by thinking, by making tools, by working together. Vela tilted her head. Your species sounds weak. Maybe, but we are still here. We spread across many planets. We survived things that should have killed us. That must count for something. She considered this for a long moment. Perhaps you are right. There are many types of strength. On the 4th day, Yuna found Taiho in the engine room. He was not fixing anything. He was just sitting there, staring at the wall. Nervous? She asked. Terrified, he admitted. Good. If you were not scared, I would think something was wrong with your brain. She sat down next to him. What do you think of her? The queen. Taiho thought about the question. She is not what I expected. She acts cold and proud, but sometimes I see something else, like she is wearing a mask, and underneath she is just tired. Being a queen must be hard. Everyone wants something from you. Everyone is watching you. One mistake and everything falls apart. I cannot imagine living like that, Yuna smiled. And yet, soon you might be king. Do not remind me. On the 5th day, they arrived at the Nexari homeworld. It was called Nexar Prime, and it was the most beautiful planet Taiho had ever seen. The surface was covered with crystal cities that glowed in the sunlight. Tall towers reached toward the sky like frozen flames. Rivers of liquid silver flowed between the buildings. Flying vehicles moved in perfect patterns, like schools of fish. It is amazing, Taiho breathed. Beside him, Queen Vela nodded. My family has ruled this world for 3,000 years. Every crystal, every tower, was built by Nexari hands. We are proud of what we have created. The ships landed in a massive port at the center of the capital city. When the doors opened, Taiho was hit by the sound of crowds. Thousands of Nexari had gathered to see their queen return. But when Taiho stepped out, the cheering stopped. The crowd went silent. Thousands of violet eyes stared at him with confusion and disgust. He heard whispers spreading through the crowd. A human? Why is there a human with the queen? Look at him. So small. So soft. What is happening? General Kiro stepped forward and raised his hand. The crowd fell completely silent. People of Nexar Prime, he announced, your queen has returned safely. But she brings news that will shock you all. This human saved her life using methods we do not understand. According to our ancient laws, she has proclaimed him her future bondmate. He will face the trials of worthiness. If he passes, he will become your king. The silence lasted for 3 seconds. Then the crowd exploded. Impossible! A human cannot be king! This is madness! The laws must be wrong. Taiho felt his heart pounding. So many angry faces. So many voices calling for his rejection. He wanted to run back to the ship and fly away forever. But then he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Captain Beck. "Stand straight," the old man whispered. "Do not let them see your fear." Tejo took a deep breath and straightened his back. He looked at the crowd without flinching. He did not know what to say, so he said nothing. He just stood there, quiet and calm. Slowly, the crowd began to quiet down. They were still angry, but they were also curious. This tiny human did not cower. He did not beg. He just stood there like he belonged. Queen Vela raised her hand, and the last whispers died. "I know this is unexpected," she said, her voice carrying across the crowd. "I know you have doubts, but our laws are clear. This human saved my soul vessel. He did what our greatest craftsman could not do. He earned the right to stand beside me." She pointed toward the great palace at the center of the city. "Tomorrow he will be presented to the High Council. They will set the trials, and he will prove himself worthy or die trying. That is our way. That is the Nexari way." The crowd did not cheer, but they did not protest either. They watched in suspicious silence as Tai-Ho was led toward the palace. The palace was enormous. Its walls were made of white crystal that glowed from within. Golden patterns covered every surface. Guards stood at every door, tall and silent, watching Tai-Ho with cold eyes. He was given a room in the guest wing. It was larger than his entire ship. The bed could fit 10 people. The bathroom had a pool instead of a shower. Everything was beautiful and expensive and completely overwhelming. "Try to rest," Vela said from the doorway. "Tomorrow will be difficult." "Will the council accept me?" Tejo asked. "No. They will set impossible trials. They will expect you to fail. Then why are we doing this?" Vela walked closer. In the soft light of the room, she looked less like a queen and more like an ordinary person. A tired person carrying too much weight. "Because the laws are sacred," she said. "If I ignore them, I lose the respect of my people. If you fail, I lose you. But the laws remain intact. It is the only way." "You speak like you expect me to fail." "I expect you to try. That is more than most would do." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Tai-Ho, why did you save me? You did not know who I was? You did not know about the laws or the reward? Why did you work all night to fix my helmet?" Tai-Ho thought about the question. The honest answer was simple. "Because you were dying," he said, "and I could help. That is all." Vela stared at him for a long moment. Something changed in her eyes, something soft and surprised. "My father once told me that true nobility is not about blood or power," she said quietly. "It is about doing what is right, even when no one is watching, even when there is no reward." I did not believe him. I thought he was foolish. She paused at the door. Perhaps I was wrong. Then she was gone, and Tejo was alone in his massive room. He did not sleep that night. He lay in the too-big bed, staring at the crystal ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. A week ago, he was a mechanic on a salvage ship. Now he was in an alien palace, about to face trials that could kill him, all because he fixed a helmet. Life was strange sometimes. In the room next door, he could hear Yuna and Captain Bayek talking quietly. They were worried about him. They had followed him across the galaxy because they were loyal, because they were family. He could not fail them. He could not fail Vela either. She had put her faith in him, even though she barely knew him, even though her entire empire thought she was crazy. Tomorrow the trials would begin. Tejo closed his eyes and tried to rest. He would need all his strength for what was coming. The High Council chamber was a massive room carved from a single piece of black crystal. 12 chairs sat in a half circle, each one holding an ancient Nexari elder. Their faces were lined with age, their eyes heavy with thousands of years of tradition. Tejo stood in the center of the room, feeling very small. Queen Vela sat on a throne behind the elders, watching silently. General Kiro stood beside her, his face hard and unreadable. Captain Beck and Yuna were in the audience section with other witnesses. They looked as nervous as Tai-Ho felt. The eldest counselor rose from his chair. He was incredibly old, his silver skin faded to gray, his eyes clouded with age, but his voice was still strong. "Human," he said, We have examined the Queen's helmet. We have seen your repairs. We do not understand how you did it. Teho nodded. I am not sure I understand either. Explain your methods. I looked at the crack. I studied the metal. I found materials that matched the density and weight. Then I welded them together to seal the gap. I used a hardening paste to strengthen the connection. That is all. The counselors looked at each other with confusion. That is not possible, another elder said. The soul vessel is not just metal. It contains spiritual energy. Physical repairs cannot work. The energy would reject foreign materials. Then why did it work? Teho asked honestly. No one had an answer. The eldest counselor sat back down. We have discussed this matter for many hours. We cannot explain your success, but we also cannot ignore our ancient laws. The Queen has made her proclamation. You have the right to attempt the trials of worthiness. He raised his hand, and a servant brought forward a scroll made of glowing fabric. There are 3 trials, the elder continued. You must complete all 3 to prove yourself worthy of our Queen. If you fail any trial, you will die. Do you understand? I understand, Teho said, keeping his voice steady. The first trial is the hunt. You will be sent into the Shadowlands, a dangerous jungle filled with deadly creatures. You must kill a Shadowfang, the most dangerous predator on our world. You will have no weapons except what you can make yourself. Teho felt his stomach drop. He had never hunted anything in his life. The second trial is the duel. You must face a champion of our people in single combat. If you lose, you die. If you win, you advance. Even worse. Teho had never been in a real fight. The Nexari were bigger, stronger, and faster than humans. How could he possibly win? The third trial is the forge. You must create something worthy of a king, something that demonstrates your value to our empire. If your creation is judged unworthy, you will be executed. The eldest counselor rolled up the scroll. You have 1 day to prepare for each trial. The hunt begins tomorrow at dawn. May your ancestors guide you. As Teho was led out of the chamber, he heard whispers from the audience. He will not survive the first trial. A human against a Shadowfang? Impossible. The Queen has made a terrible mistake. Back in his room, Teho sat on his bed with his head in his hands. Captain Beck and Yuna sat with him. Well, Yuna said, that was terrifying. I am going to die, Teho said flatly. Probably, the captain agreed, but not definitely. Tell me about this Shadowfang. What do we know? Teho shook his head. Nothing. I have never heard of it. Then we need information. The captain stood up. Yuna, see if you can access their computer networks. Find out everything about this creature. Teho, talk to the Queen. She might help you. Why would she help me? If I die, she does not have to marry me. If you die, she loses face. Her proclamation becomes meaningless. She wants you to succeed, even if she cannot say it openly. Teho found Vela in the palace gardens. She was sitting by a silver fountain, staring at the water. When she saw him approach, she did not look surprised. You came for information, she said. It was not a question. Yes, tell me about the Shadowfang. Vela was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak. The Shadowfang is a predator from the Shadowlands. It is as tall as 2 Nexari standing on each other. Its body is covered in black scales that absorb light. It has 6 legs, each ending in claws that can cut through metal. Its jaws can crush a stone. How do your people normally kill it? We use energy weapons, plasma rifles, explosive charges. Even then, many hunters die. But I am not allowed weapons. No, you must use what you find in the jungle. It is meant to be impossible for you. Teho looked at the fountain. The silver water flowed in patterns that seemed almost alive. Is there any weakness? He asked. Vela hesitated. The Shadowfang is a predator. It hunts by sight and smell. It chases movement. Once it locks onto prey, it will not stop until it catches it. That does not sound like a weakness. It is not, but... She paused, thinking. The Shadowfang is arrogant. It has no natural enemies. It does not expect danger. It relies on speed and power, not caution. Teho nodded slowly. An idea was forming in his mind. Not a good idea, but an idea. In the jungle, he said, what materials can I find? Plants? Metals? Anything? There are vines as strong as steel cables. Some trees have sap that hardens like stone when it dries. There are thorns that carry poison. The jungle is full of resources if you know how to use them. Steel vines, hardening sap, poison thorns. Tejo repeated the words, his mind working. I can use these things. Vela looked at him with curiosity. What are you planning? I am not going to fight the Shadow Fang, Tejo said. I am going to trap it. That has never been tried before. Your people are warriors. They fight everything directly. They probably never thought of trapping because it does not feel honorable. He smiled slightly. But I am not a warrior. I am a mechanic. I fix problems. And to me, a creature is just another problem to solve. Vela studied him for a long moment. The sunset made her silver skin glow with warm colors. For the first time, Tejo noticed how beautiful she was. You are strange, she said finally. Not brave exactly. Not strong, but strange in a way I do not understand. Is that good or bad? I do not know yet. She stood up and walked toward the palace. Get some rest, human. Tomorrow you face death. Tejo watched her go. Then he went back to his room and started planning. That night he did not sleep at all. He drew diagrams on paper. He made calculations. He asked Yuna to find information about the jungle and its resources. By morning he had a plan. It was dangerous. It might not work. But it was his only chance. As the sun rose over the Crystal City, Tejo was taken to the edge of the Shadowlands. The jungle stretched before him, dark and mysterious. Strange sounds came from within. General Kiro handed him a small knife. This is all you get. Good luck, human. You will need it. Tejo took the knife and stepped into the jungle. The hunt had begun. The jungle was darker than Tejo expected. The trees were so tall and thick that almost no sunlight reached the ground. Strange plants glowed with soft colors, providing the only light. The air was hot and wet and smelled of rotting leaves. Tejo moved carefully through the undergrowth. Every sound made him jump. He knew the Shadow Fang could appear at any moment, but first he needed materials. He found the steel vines quickly. They hung from the trees like ropes, silver and flexible, but incredibly strong. He cut several long pieces with his knife and coiled them around his arm. The hardening sap was more difficult to find. He had to climb a tree and cut into the bark. The sap oozed out slowly, thick and sticky. He collected it in leaves and carried it carefully. The poison thorns grew near the base of certain bushes. They were long and sharp, covered with a purple substance that smelled bitter. He wrapped them in leaves to avoid touching them directly. By midday, he had everything he needed. Now he had to find the perfect spot. He looked for a narrow path between large trees, a place where the Shadow Fang would have to go straight ahead, with no room to dodge. After an hour of searching, he found it. A natural corridor between two massive trees, about 10 meters long. Tejo worked quickly. He dug a deep pit in the middle of the path, using his knife in his hands. His fingers bled from the hard soil, but he did not stop. He sharpened wooden stakes and drove them into the bottom of the pit. Then he coated the stakes with poison thorns. He covered the pit with leaves and branches, making it invisible. On either side, he set up his steel vines as tripwires. Anyone stepping on them would be pushed forward into the pit. But the Shadow Fang was not stupid. It might avoid the obvious trap. So Tejo added more layers. He smeared the hardening sap on tree trunks at the entrance to the path. If the creature tried to climb or jump, it would get stuck. Finally, he used some of his own blood to create a trail leading into the path. The creature hunted by smell. Fresh blood would attract it. Then he climbed a tree and waited. Hours passed. The jungle grew darker as night approached. Tejo's arms ached from holding on to the branches. His eyes burned from watching the path. Then he heard it, a low growl that made the trees vibrate, heavy footsteps crushing the undergrowth, and a smell like rotting meat that made him want to vomit. The Shadow Fang emerged from the darkness. It was bigger than Vela had described, a monster of black scales and yellow eyes. Its 6 legs moved in terrible harmony. Its jaws opened slightly, revealing rows of teeth like daggers. The creature sniffed the air and found the blood trail. It followed it toward the narrow path. Tejo held his breath. The Shadow Fang entered the corridor. It stepped on the first tripwire. The steel vines pulled, pushing it forward. The creature stumbled, confused. It stepped on the second wire, and then the ground gave way. The Shadow Fang fell into the pit with a horrible scream. The poisoned stakes pierced its body from below. It thrashed and roared, trying to climb out, but its claws stuck in the hardening sap on the walls. Tae-ho climbed down from his tree. He walked slowly to the edge of the pit. The creature looked up at him with hatred in its dying eyes. "Sorry," Tae-ho said quietly. "I did not want to kill you, but I had to survive." The Shadow Fang gave one final growl and went still. When the Nexari judges came to check on him, they found Tae-ho sitting beside the pit, covered in dirt and blood but alive. They stared at the dead creature in shock. "He killed it," one judge whispered. "He actually killed it." The news spread across the empire. The human had passed the first trial, not through strength or speed, but through cunning and preparation. The people did not know what to think. The second trial came 3 days later, the duel. Tai-ho stood in a great arena surrounded by thousands of spectators. Across from him stood General Kiro himself. "You requested me as your opponent," Kiro said, surprised. "Why? I am the greatest warrior in the empire. You could have chosen someone weaker." "If I am going to fight," Tae-ho replied, "I want to fight the best. If I beat you, no one can say I cheated." Kiro smiled coldly. "You will not beat me, human. But I respect your courage." The fight began. Kiro was incredibly fast. His sword moved like lightning, striking from angles that seemed impossible. Tae-ho barely dodged the first attack, and the second, and the third. The crowd cheered for their general. This would be a quick victory. But Tae-ho was not trying to win. Not yet. He was watching, studying. Every fighter had patterns, habits, weaknesses. He just needed to find Kairos. For 10 minutes, Tae-ho did nothing but dodge and retreat. He took small cuts on his arms and legs. Blood dripped onto the sand. The crowd started to boo. "Fight back, coward! Stop running and die with honor!" But Tae-ho ignored them. He watched Kiro's movements. The general always stepped left before a heavy strike. He always paused briefly after his third attack in a sequence. And on that third attack, he overextended his arm just slightly. That was the weakness. Tae-ho stopped running. He turned and faced Kiro directly. The general smiled. "Finally ready to die?" Kiro attacked. First strike. Tae-ho dodged. Second strike. Tae-ho blocked with his sword. Third strike. Kiro's arm extended too far. Tae-ho moved. He slipped inside Kiro's guard, twisted the general's wrist, and placed his blade against the Nexari's throat. Everything went silent. "Yield," Tae-ho said calmly. Kiro stared at him with wide eyes. Then, slowly, he dropped his sword. The arena exploded. Some people cheered, others screamed in anger. A human had defeated their greatest warrior. It was impossible. It was humiliating. But it had happened. The third trial was the forge. Tai-ho had 1 week to create something worthy of a king. He asked for access to the palace workshops. The craftsmen there laughed at him at first. What could a human possibly make? But when they saw him work, their laughter stopped. Tae-ho combined human engineering with Nexari materials. He studied their technology and found ways to improve it. He worked 20 hours a day, sleeping only when his body forced him to stop. On the 7th day, he presented his creation to the council. It was a gauntlet, a metal glove covered with circuits and gems. It looked simple compared to Nexari art. But when Queen Vela put it on and activated it, the room fell silent. She punched a stone pillar. The pillar exploded into dust. The gauntlet multiplied the wearer's strength by 10 times. It was a weapon that could change battles, and it was made by a human. The eldest counselor examined the gauntlet carefully. His old hands trembled as he held it. "This is remarkable," he admitted. "Nothing like this exists in our empire." Tae-ho stood quietly waiting. Finally, the counselor looked up. "The trials are complete. The human has passed all 3. By our ancient laws, he has proven himself worthy." He turned to face the audience. "Kang Tai-ho will become the bondmate of Queen Vela. He will become king of the Nexari Empire." Some people cheered. Others remained silent. But no one protested. Tai-Ho let out a breath he did not know he was holding. He had done it. He had survived. Across the room, Queen Vela caught his eye. She nodded slightly, and something that might have been pride crossed her face. But somewhere in the shadows, Lord Hyun-sik watched with hatred in his eyes. The trials were over. But the real danger was just beginning. The bonding ceremony was set for 1 month later. The entire empire began preparations. Decorations covered the Crystal City. Invitations were sent to every corner of the 12-star systems. For the first time in 3,000 years, a non-Nexari would become king. Tai-Ho spent his days learning about his new role. He studied Nexari history, politics, and customs. He met with advisors who taught him about the different noble houses and their complicated relationships. It was exhausting. But slowly he began to understand how the empire worked. Queen Vela visited him often. Their conversations grew longer and more personal. She told him about her childhood, her strict father, her lonely years as crown princess. He told her about his own father, the debts, the years of hard work on salvage ships. They came from different worlds, but they understood each other in strange ways. "You know," Tai-Ho said one evening, "when I first met you, I thought you were cold and scary." Vela raised an eyebrow. "And now?" "Now I think you are still scary, but not cold. You just hide your warmth very well." She almost smiled. "You are learning to speak like a politician." "I hope not. I hate politicians." Yuna and Captain Bike stayed close to Tai-Ho. They were given rooms in the palace and treated with respect because of their connection to the future king, but they never forgot they were still outsiders. Yuna spent her time exploring the palace and making friends with servants. She was good at getting people to talk. She learned secrets about the noble houses, their rivalries, their hidden scandals. One night she came to Tai-Ho's room looking worried. "Something is wrong," she said. "I have been hearing whispers. Some nobles are planning something. They call themselves the true Nexari. They believe the empire should be pure, with no foreign influence." "That is not surprising," Tai-Ho said. "Many people are unhappy about me becoming king." "No, you do not understand. These whispers are serious. They talk about blood, about sacrifice, about restoring the old ways." Yuna lowered her voice. "I think they are planning to kill you." Tai-Ho felt a chill run down his spine. He had known the nobles disliked him. But assassination? "Do you know who leads them?" "A lord named Hyun-sik. He is strange. His name is human, but he is fully Nexari. I think he was raised by humans and returned here as an adult. He hates both species." Tai-Ho remembered seeing Lord Hyun-sik in the shadows during the trial judgments, a tall Nexari with cold eyes and a permanent sneer. "I should tell the queen," Tai-Ho said. "I already tried. Her guards would not let me see her. They said she was busy with ceremony preparations." Yuna looked frustrated. "There are walls around her, people controlling who she meets and what she hears." This was concerning. If the conspiracy reached into the palace guards, Vela might not even know she was in danger. Tai-Ho found General Kiro and told him everything. The general listened with a serious expression. "I have heard these rumors too," Kiro admitted, "but I dismissed them as angry talk. Perhaps I was wrong." "Can you investigate?" "I will try, but Lord Hyun-sik is powerful. He has many friends among the noble houses. If I move against him without proof, I could start a civil war." The days passed with growing tension. Tai-Ho felt eyes watching him everywhere. He stopped eating food from the palace kitchens, asking Captain Beck to prepare his meals instead. He never went anywhere alone. Then, 1 week before the bonding ceremony, Yuna discovered the truth. She had followed one of Hyun-sik's servants to a secret meeting in the lower city. What she heard made her blood run cold. Lord Hyun-sik was not just planning to kill Tai-Ho. He had been the one who attacked Queen Vela's convoy in the first place. The battle where Vela's escape pod was damaged, the enemies who nearly killed her, they were not foreign invaders. They were Hyun-sik's private fleet. He had orchestrated the attack to assassinate Vela and seize power. When Tai-Ho saved Vela, he ruined everything. Now Hyun-sik had to adjust his plans. "He is going to attack during the bonding ceremony," Yuna reported. "His soldiers are hidden throughout the city. When the ceremony begins, they will strike. They will kill both you and Vela, then blame it on human assassins. He will use the tragedy to take the throne." Tai-ho felt cold with fear, but beneath the fear was anger. This lord had tried to kill Vela. He had nearly succeeded, and now he wanted to try again. "We need to tell someone," Tai-ho said. "The council, the military, anyone. Who can we trust? Hyunsik has agents everywhere. If we warn the wrong person, they will kill us before we can expose the truth." Captain Bayek had been listening quietly. Now he spoke. "We cannot wait for others to act. If this conspiracy is as deep as Yuna says, official channels are too dangerous. We need to take matters into our own hands." "How? We are 4 humans in an alien empire. What can we do against an army?" The captain smiled grimly. "We have survived worse odds, son. Remember the salvage run on Kepler Station? 300 pirates and 1 small ship. We made it out alive. That was different. We could run away. Here we have nowhere to go. Then we do not run. We fight." They spent the night planning. It was a desperate plan, full of holes and risks. But it was the only option they had. On the morning of the bonding ceremony, the Crystal City was filled with crowds. People from all 12 star systems had come to witness the historic event. Music played in the streets. Flowers covered every surface. Tai-ho stood in the ceremonial hall, wearing royal robes that felt strange on his body. Across the hall, Vela waited in a stunning dress of silver and gold. Her helmet gleamed in the light. The High Council sat in their elevated seats. Nobles filled the audience. Everything looked perfect, but Tai-ho could see Hyunsik's soldiers hidden among the crowd. He recognized their postures, their watchful eyes. They were waiting for a signal. The eldest counselor began the ceremony. He spoke ancient words in a language Tai-ho did not understand. The crowd fell silent. Any moment now, the attack would begin. Tai-ho caught Vela's eye and gave her a small nod. She frowned slightly, confused. What was he planning? Suddenly, the great doors of the hall burst open. Captain Beck strode in, followed by General Kiro and a squad of loyal soldiers. "Stop the ceremony," Kiro shouted. "There is a traitor among us." Chaos erupted. The crowd screamed and scattered. Hyunsik's soldiers drew their weapons, but they were surrounded by Kiro's troops. Fighting broke out across the hall. Lord Hyunsik pushed through the crowd toward Vela. His face was twisted with rage. "You ruined everything," he screamed, "but I will still have my victory." He pulled a weapon from his robe, a small energy blade meant for the queen's heart. Tai-ho ran. He had never been fast. He had never been brave. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. He threw himself between Vela and the blade. Pain exploded in his chest as the weapon cut through his shoulder. He fell backward, blood spreading across his royal robes. But he had bought enough time. General Kiro's sword came down, and Lord Hyunsik fell to the ground. His treachery finally ended. Vela caught Tai-ho before he hit the floor. Her violet eyes were wide with shock and something else. "You idiot," she whispered. "Why did you do that?" Tai-ho smiled weakly. "Because you were dying, and I could help, remember?" Vela held him tighter as medics rushed forward. Around them, the last of the conspirators were being arrested. The conspiracy was broken. The empire was saved. But Tai-ho's vision was fading. The last thing he saw was Vela's face, beautiful and terrified, before everything went dark. Tai-ho woke up slowly. His body felt heavy, like it was filled with stones. Pain throbbed in his shoulder, but it was dull now, controlled by medicine. He opened his eyes and saw a white ceiling. He was in a medical room, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed. The air smelled clean and sharp. Yuna sat beside his bed, her eyes red from crying. When she saw him awake, she jumped up and grabbed his hand. "You are alive," she said, her voice shaking. "You stupid, stupid man. You almost died." "What happened?" Tai-ho asked. His throat was dry and rough. "You took a blade for the queen. The wound was deep, but the doctor saved you. You have been unconscious for 3 days." 3 days, Tai-ho tried to sit up, but pain shot through his shoulder, and he fell back. "Do not move," Yuna said firmly. "You need to rest." The ceremony? Hyunsik? The conspiracy? All dealt with. General Kiro's soldiers arrested everyone involved. Hyunsik is dead. His followers are in prison. The empire is safe. Tai-ho closed his eyes with relief. It was over. They had won. The door opened and Captain Beck walked in. He looked tired but happy. When he saw Tai-ho awake, he smiled. About time you woke up. The Queen has been asking about you every hour. She is okay. Thanks to you, yes. Not a scratch on her. The captain sat down heavily in a chair. You know, when I found you on that space station 5 years ago, I thought you were just another desperate kid looking for work. I never imagined you would become king of an alien empire. I am not king yet, Tai-ho said. You will be. The Queen made that very clear. She told the council that anyone who objects can fight her personally. Nobody objected. Tai-ho laughed, then winced at the pain. That sounds like her. Over the next week, Tai-ho recovered slowly. Nexari medicine was advanced, and his wound healed faster than it would have on Earth. Soon he could sit up, then stand, then walk short distances. Vela visited him every day. At first, she was formal and distant, speaking only about politics and the investigation into the conspiracy. But as the days passed, her mask began to crack. One evening, she sat beside his bed and said nothing for a long time. Tai-ho waited patiently. Finally, she spoke. When you fell, I thought you were dead. I thought I had lost you before I even truly had you. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. I have lost people before. My mother, my brother. Many friends. I learned to hide my feelings so the pain would not destroy me. She looked at him with her violet eyes. But when you fell, I could not hide anything. I felt fear and grief and something else I did not expect. What was that? Love. The word hung in the air between them. Tai-ho felt his heart beat faster. I did not choose you, Vela continued. The laws chose you. Our meeting was an accident, but now I am glad for that accident. I am glad you fixed my helmet. I am glad you are here. She took his hand gently. Her silver skin was cool against his. When the ceremony happens again, I will not be following ancient laws. I will be following my heart. Do you understand? Tai-ho squeezed her hand. I understand, and I feel the same way. For the first time since he had known her, Vela smiled fully. It was a beautiful smile. Warm and genuine, transforming her cold face into something radiant. Then rest and heal, she said. We have a wedding to complete. 2 weeks later, the bonding ceremony was held again. This time, there were no hidden enemies. General Kiro's soldiers guarded every entrance. Every guest was checked carefully. The great hall was more beautiful than before. White flowers covered the walls. Crystal lights floated in the air. Music played softly from unseen instruments. Tai-ho stood at the center of the hall in his royal robes. His shoulder still ached slightly, but he ignored it. This day was too important. The doors opened and Vela walked in. She wore a dress of pure white, covered with gems that sparkled like stars. Her helmet gleamed with new decorations added for the occasion. She moved with grace and power, every step confident. But her eyes were soft as they found Tai-ho. The eldest counselor spoke the ancient words. Tai-ho and Vela exchanged vows in both Nexari and human languages. They promised to stand together, to protect each other, to face all challenges as one. When the ceremony ended, the counselor raised his hands. People of the Nexari Empire, he announced, I present to you Queen Vela and King Tai-ho. May their bond last forever. May their rule bring peace and prosperity to all. The crowd erupted in cheers. Not everyone was happy, Tai-ho knew. Some nobles still resented a human on the throne, but most of the common people had accepted him. His success in the trials, his defeat of Hyun-sik, and his willingness to die for their queen had won their respect. Captain Back stood in the front row, tears running down his weathered face. Yuna cheered loudly, ignoring the scandalized looks from nearby nobles. General Kiro saluted formally. He had been Tai-ho's opponent in the duel, but now he was a friend and supporter. Long live the king, he said, and meant it. That night there was a great celebration. Food and drink flowed freely. Musicians played until dawn. People danced in the streets of the Crystal City. Tai-ho and Vela stood on a balcony above the festivities, watching their people celebrate. You know, Tai-ho said, a month ago, I was fixing broken pipes on a salvage ship. Now I am king of an empire. Life is very strange. Do you regret it? Vela asked. He thought about the question. He thought about the danger, the fear, the pain. He thought about leaving his old life behind. Then he looked at Vela, at the city below, at the stars above. "No," he said, "I do not regret anything." Vela leaned against him, her head resting on his good shoulder. "Good, because I need you. This empire needs you. Your way of thinking, your creativity, your kindness. These things are rare among my people." "I am just a mechanic," Tejo said. "No, you are a fixer. You see problems and find solutions. You do not accept that something is impossible. You look for ways to make it work." She smiled up at him. "That is exactly what this empire needs." Below them, Yuna was teaching some Nexari nobles how to do a human dance. Captain Beck was sharing drinks with General Kiro, telling stories about their adventures in space. Somewhere in the starport, the Starlight Wanderer sat waiting. The old ship that had brought Tai Ho here, that had carried him across the galaxy to his destiny. He would keep it, he decided. It would always be a reminder of where he came from. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we rule together. There will be challenges. Some nobles will test us. Some systems will rebel. Old enemies will see opportunity." Vela straightened up, looking at him with determination. "But we will face them together. You and me. The queen and her king." Tejo nodded. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if he was ready to be king of an empire. But he knew one thing for certain. He had fixed Queen Vela's helmet on a night when she was dying. That simple act had changed everything. It had brought him across the stars, through deadly trials, past assassins and conspirators. And in the end, it had brought him love. That was enough. That was more than enough. He took Vela's hand in his own. Together they looked out at the stars, at the vast empire that was now their responsibility. "Let us get to work," Tejo said. And somewhere in the distance, the sun rose over the crystal city, beginning a new day, a new era, a new chapter in the history of the Nexari Empire, the chapter of the human king.